Welcome back to the third chapter of Ruth. Changed venues again. This time I'm on my back porch. You can see St. Paul's Lutheran Church behind me and the elementary school off over my right shoulder a little bit. We're going to pick up where we left off then in the last chapter. Ruth had been out gleaning and brought home first the barley and then the wheat. And now she and Naomi have been talking just a little bit more. And it continues then, Ruth 3, verse 1. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? Is not Boaz our relative, with whose young woman you were? See, he's winnowing barley tonight on the threshing floor. Wash therefore, and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor, but do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies, then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." And she replied, "All that you say, I will do." The plot thickens. Before, where it was just getting to know you and sort of feeling things out, now Naomi is pointing Ruth in the direction of actually getting her man. She sends her out to the one who is their relative, with whose young woman she was. She trusts Boaz. She's seen how he has treated them so far. She's experienced the extra grain that he sent back home with Ruth, and she knows how wonderful this is. He's at the threshing floor now, winnowing barley. We don't do a lot of winnowing right now because we send combine harvesters out into our fields, and they cut and they separate and they spit everything out the backside as they drive through. But in winnowing, after you gathered your grain together, you would take it to the threshing floor, you would beat it, you would throw it up in the air as the breeze blew and shake the grain loose from the chaff and everything else. You tried to do it on a night when there was enough breeze that what was not heavy enough to fall straight down, the seed, would just be sent on its way, and you didn't have so much to sort. So he's at the threshing floor, and likely with others also, because of the way everything's set up here. But clean up, anoint yourself, put on the oil. You're not just going to work right now, so put on your pretty clothes, put on your happy face, and go down there, but sort of hide out, stay back. Don't make yourself made known to the man until he's finished eating and drinking, and then after he's laying down. And we'll see that's not just after he's laid down, but after he goes to sleep. Then she's supposed to slip in, as it says, uncover his feet and lie down. Now, there's some Bible scholars who think this is merely a euphemism and that it's actually telling her to crawl into bed with him and do whatever he wants. But it's quite likely that she's doing exactly what the text says here, to go and uncover his feet. Lying down on a cold threshing floor with your feet hanging out is going to wake you up after a while. And Ruth is going to be in a position then to help this man who will have literal cold feet, even if he may not have figurative cold feet, in order to keep deciding to do the right thing. So Ruth goes. We pick up in verse 6. So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. So he's had a good meal, his belly's full. He's had a little bit of wine, which can make him both happy and sleepy. And he's done a good day's hard work, which is going to make him tired. So he probably settled into nap mode really quickly after this had happened. And Ruth slips in, as it says, softly, and lay down, and it's going to be a while now. Remember, we don't have artificial light. You certainly don't want a bunch of torches hanging around the threshing floor or a winnowing area when you've got all that chaff and grain flying around, because there's nothing like a little bit of a spark on the dry chaff to cause a fire and destroy what you've just winnowed. So once dark comes, you wind down, you eat, you sleep. So he's probably been asleep for a while, and maybe quite deeply at the time. But at midnight, the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. Okay, you're a single man. You've been living the single life all along. Most people back in those days didn't have house pets, no cats, no dogs that might crawl into bed with you. So it is kind of startling when all of a sudden it's lying down there at your feet in the middle of the night. And he said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer." Here we have the figurative and the literal coming together. The literal is that Ruth also is cold. And she's encouraging Boaz then to throw his cloak over both of them. Let them both warm under the cloak and let them share their warmth with one another. Doesn't this sound like something that you would read about later on in Proverbs? So she says, spread this out, cover me up. But also then the figurative, spread your wings over your servant, the wings of protection, the wings of a mother hen over her nest in order to keep the baby bird safe. This is the picture of the Redeemer, protecting the weak, protecting the helpless. So she's asking him both to help her right now, get her warm and himself, but also then to fulfill the task of Redeemer, to take the land and buy it back so that Naomi can keep it in her family. And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich." So Boaz, it seems, had also been looking toward Ruth, but maybe being a little bit older, he thinks he's not quite in the position to offer her that vitality, that youthfulness, whatever it was that he thought that the woman wanted. But he's not a flash in the pan, and he commends her for not looking for one. He commends her for looking someone who's stable, not necessarily serious and sober all the time, but one who is not going to run willy-nilly, the one who is in things for the long haul, one who will think things through and then act on his thoughts. It's not just going to be emotional judgments. It's going to be the best thing for the best reason, because he doesn't just think things through intellectually, but he also thinks things through with his heart and with the scriptures. He knows God's word, he knows God's law, and he knows how God would have his people live. "And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman." So everybody around here knows what you're like. They've seen how you've been treating Naomi since you came back. They saw how you followed her all the way from Moab. You abandoned your own people. You abandoned your own God because of your love for this Israelite woman, for this woman of Judah, for this woman of Bethlehem. And everybody here who's got anything at all going on thinks that you are wonderful. "And now it is true that I am a redeemer, yet there is a redeemer nearer than I." The whole kinship is set up where the closest person is the first one in line to do the redemption, but then also the obligations that come along with redemption. Not just buying it back, but as I mentioned when we started this study, the sort of mixing together of the kinsman redeemer with the levirate marriage, the marrying your brother's widow in order to give her a family. And here it seems like that is also in here with that nearness. So he tells her, "Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good, let him do it. But if he's not willing to redeem you, then as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until morning." So things are set. Cuddle up, stay warm, and we'll take care of it then. Boaz wants to do this. This is obvious. But Boaz also knows that there are procedures, there are priorities, and he's not going to let one of the other kinsmen get his nose out of joint because nobody asked him first. So as it says, she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another. It's still dark 30. It's still not even the early fingers of dawn, however the poets might express it, however you might see it for yourself if you're an early riser. It's still dark. And he sends her out then, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. So he's not just obviously talking to Ruth, but he's got his guys around here also, which is another argument that all they did that night was talk and sleep. Because his young men, at least some of them, must also have been gathered around the threshing room at that time. And this instruction then is not for Ruth. He would have said, let it not be known that you, but he's saying, let not know that the woman. He's talking to y'all who are standing around. Keep your big mouth shut. Boaz knows the danger of gossip. He knows what loose lips can do in a situation like this. And if this all goes sideways, or let's say if it goes the way that the first Redeemer should do it, and he agrees to become the Redeemer, he doesn't want anybody thinking that this woman is anybody impure, that she's sleeping around, that she's using sex as a weapon, as a tool to get what she wants. So he shushes his men, and he said, bring the garment you're wearing and hold it out. So she held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her, and she went into the city. So again, he sends her home. Before, when she had gleaned, he had poured more in there, but this time she hadn't even been out working. And he still gave her this. It's like a bride price. He's already paying a dowry, or paying whatever it is that was common in Israel that time, in order to arrange a marriage. This is a free gift right here. So Ruth heads back to the city, and in verse 16, when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, how did you fare, my daughter? Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, these 6 measures of barley he gave to me, for he said to me, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law. And that's the other part of this. Boaz still knows that Ruth is taking care of Naomi. And he's going to send her back, because just because they had a good chat, just because things might change, doesn't mean that Naomi doesn't need support, that she doesn't need food, that she doesn't need her eat and her drink right now. He's not going to make her wait until everything settles out. So Naomi then replies to her, wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today. So Ruth has told her that he's going to fix things, and Naomi knows the kind of man Boaz is. Maybe she's remembering more and more about him as they've been living there. Maybe she's talked with him in the intervening time, and she's certainly getting the wonderful reports that Ruth has been giving her. And she knows this is the kind of guy who will dig in and finish what job he starts. And if he says, we're going to do it in the morning, we are going to do it in the morning. And there's nothing that's going to get in his way. So that ends the chapter here on a note of suspense. With people who are first hearing this story may have known it, may have not, but it's nice the way this section is right here, where you take a pause. And even though the numbers weren't put in the book when it was first recorded, or for many centuries thereafter, this is the end of chapter 3. And since chapter 4 picks up and really runs to the finish line, let's take our break now and think about what's already happened. Think about all the preparatory work. Think about the harvesting, the gleaning, the gifts given. Think about all the way back to what a wonderful family Naomi had, how it was all shredded, and how she comes to realize that she still has a family because she has Ruth, and what that means for her, the help that she receives from her daughter-in-law, from her daughter. We can really take the in-law out, because Naomi has a daughter. She has a girl in her life, in her household, who loves her completely and absolutely, and will do anything for her to keep her healthy, to keep her in home, to keep her in food, to keep her up in whatever way she needs it. Ruth is a wonderful daughter. She's a devout daughter. She is a child of God. And she's living as God's child. She's living with the love that God has for us to give to other people. So next time, chapter 4, and we'll see how it all turns out with the story of Ruth and Boaz and Naomi and a few other people that we need to talk about as well. Until then, God bless you.